The aisle of Walmart looks like this.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
All right, sorry, that was weird. So today I'm checking out what on earth is the Isle of Man, not UK. Looking at the map right here on the first screen of the video, and this literally looks like it's right in the UK. All right, I guess it's not in the UK. I have seen one video on the Isle of Man. It's the race, the TT, like the motorbike race that was in the Isle of Man, but I know nothing else about the island. I thought that was just the name of the race. I didn't know it was actually an island. So today I'm gonna find out what exactly this is, and yeah, let's just hop straight into it.
In the Irish Sea, in between Great Britain and Ireland, you will find this very interesting island. The island in question is the Isle of Man. It is actually not part of the UK, nor is it a country or territory. So what on earth is it? What goes on there, and why does it have one of the weirdest flags on Earth? So let's swim across and investigate. So as just mentioned, the island sits in the Irish Sea. Its closest point to England is about 31 kilometers away and to Ireland about 51. The island is pretty small at 572 kilometers squared. This would rank it as the 179th largest country if it were a country. So if it's not a country, part of the UK, or a territory, what on earth is it? Well, the island is classed as a self-governing British Crown dependency. But what on earth does that gibberish actually mean? Well, it means that it manages its own affairs, such as laws and taxes, through its own government and parliament.
That's honestly kind of cool. I had no idea that this was like even existed. They run their own government? That's cool. I wonder if I have any viewers that are on the Isle of Man. Hey, drop a comment down below if you're on this island.
The UK and isn't controlled by the UK's parliament, but the UK does handle its defence and international relations. The British Crown refers to the monarchy, which at the time of making this video is held by King Charles III. The King's powers here are pretty much just symbolic and ceremonial, meaning he doesn't really have much power. The power comes from its own elected officials. It's fair to say that the Isle of Man has a pretty sweet deal. It kind of runs like its own country with its own rules, but is protected by the UK and its allies. However, as it's not a sovereign country, it can't join organisations like NATO or the EU on its own. It is also surprisingly not part of the British Commonwealth. Its physical position is also very advantageous. As previously mentioned, it sits nicely in between Great Britain and Ireland. Cut off these choke points.
I wonder if this originally was right here. Doesn't that make sense? You know, what is it, like Pangea, where everything was one continent at one point? It does look like this fits perfectly right there, like it it floated off. Pretty interesting.
Here, and it'd be extremely hard for anyone to invade. The island has a pretty small population. Only around 85,000 people call the island home. This means that its entire population could fit into Wembley Stadium with another 5,000 seats spare. So 85,000 people living in an area of 572 kilometers squared gives us a population density of around 149 people per kilometer squared. The exact same as China, believe it or not.
Dang.
For reference, the UK's population density is 279 and Ireland's 72, so somewhere in the middle. Of the 85,000 or so people that live here, about 27,000 live in its capital, Douglas, which sits in the southeast of the island.
I bet you, wow, look at that photo. Really, really pretty. I bet it would be amazing living here. Especially someone like me who's likes being secluded and not a lot of people. I like people, but you know, I like my space. So I feel like it would be really cool living on this island. Stunning, stunning images coming out of it right now. Holy cow.
There are two official languages on the island, one of course being English and the other Manx. A language believed to only be spoken by around 1,000 to 2,000 people around the world. It is classed as critically endangered. This is what it sounds like.
The jig the reich, the agna the rougent the talo mation snow. Hoodden and an Jew skach lay. Lay down the locht and met us in lay thousand the Jew locht.
To me, it kind of sounds like a mixture of some Nordic language mixed with Irish and Scottish. Being from England myself, it sounds so familiar, but of course I don't understand a single word. Now, as mentioned earlier, the Isle of Man sets its own rules, with its tax rates being perhaps its most noteworthy. The island is classed as a tax haven. Most businesses see 0% tax rates. There are
Whoa, look at these tax rates. Most businesses, 0% corporate tax. Banks, 10% tax on banking income. Large retailers, property income. 20% tax on rental or land-related income. 15% tax applies on banks, large retailers. Okay, so it's good for business. Capital gains tax, 0% CGT. No CGT in the Isle of Man. Wow. A 0% inheritance tax. Everywhere should be there should be a 0% inheritance tax. It's one of the dumbest taxes. It's like somebody made a bunch of money, they paid a bunch of taxes on it, and then somebody inherits it, and you have to pay an inheritance. It's fucking dumb, dude. All right, let's keep going. Crazy taxes.
See 0% tax rates. There are no capital gains or inheritance tax. It's no
Crazy.
or very little corporate tax means it's a very favorable place to run your company from, especially for those in banking, gambling, and shipping. For example, the largest online poker site in the world operates from the Isle of Man. Now, the economy size of the island is actually quite impressive considering it has such a low population. It's roughly $8 billion US. That's about the same economy size as Montenegro, a country with a population of around 630,000. This therefore gives the people of the island a GDP per capita of around 94,000 US, which according to the World Bank ranks them as the 8th richest people on Earth. However, take this figure with a pinch.
Hold on, I want to go back and look at this really quick. Monaco, Luxembourg, Bermuda. Bermuda? Really? Ireland, Switzerland, Cayman Islands. I like how it's a bunch of like British, where they're not British colonies. What are they, like British, overseen by the British? You can see it, the flag right there. That's pretty crazy. They're like all on the top, besides Luxembourg at number 1. 1/3, let's see here, estimate 128, 259. Interesting.
Richest people on Earth. However, take this figure with a pinch of salt, as this number is highly inflated due to the many large multinational companies that are based there taking advantage of its favorable tax rates. These companies generate significant profits, but not all of that money stays in the local economy or benefits residents directly. But what is 94,000 US in the island's currency? But what currency do they actually use there? You might assume it's the British pound, or maybe even the euro like the Irish. Well, it's the pound, but not the British pound. They use their own currency called the Manx pound. However, it is tied to the British pound's value, and British pounds can be used on the island.
Okay, so like the pound that they use.
So enough about money and tax, let's take a look at what the island actually looks like. So the island consists of one single main island alongside several smaller islets. The terrain is generally classed as being quite similar to that of England, to the northwest specifically, as both regions see lush green hills, rugged coastline with dramatic cliffs and sandy beaches.
I always wonder if they do some type of like Photoshop on this to make the water look so blue. I feel like they got it. Is the water really that clear there? Maybe it is. I don't know.
This makes complete sense, seeing as though the island is believed to have been connected to Great Britain some 10,000 years ago during the Ice Age, when sea levels were much lower. But as the Ice Age ended, Isle of Man became the isolated island as we know it today. The general vibe of the island could definitely be described.
I guess I was wrong about my saying the island it would fit perfectly right up there.
Rugged, remote, and raw. The highest point on the island is Snaefell, which measures 620 meters above sea level.
What a name.
The island's climate
Snaefell
is heavily influenced by the Gulf Stream, which means it has a temperate maritime climate, meaning mild, wet winters and cool, relatively dry summers. The highest recorded temperature on the island was 28.1 degrees Celsius in 1983. Nowhere near the UK's record of 40.3 degrees. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, it has a very odd flag. This is what it looks like. So the flag has 3 bent legs not connected to a body. The reason for this choice is somewhat unknown. However, some sources believe that the 3 legs symbolize strength, movement, and balance.
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of know what this symbol is. What is it? Basically, if you take I've done a ton of research on this before, where you turn it sideways, it's what Germany used in the 40s when they took that symbol and turned it a little bit. Kind of like that, but they use legs. Legs. What do legs represent?
Now, the flag of the Isle of Man is not to be confused with the flag of Sicily, which is very similar and arguably the creepiest flag on Earth. Now, it's impossible to make a video about the Isle of Man and not mention the TT, perhaps the thing it's most famous for. So, TT stands for Tourist Trophy and is one of the most famous and dangerous motorcycle races in the world. It's a race where motorcyclists
cool.
drive.
If you guys haven't checked out that video, it's on the channel under the sports tab. I'll try and drop a link up here if I remember, but if not, just go to the sports playlist. It's over there.
In speeds across the island's public roads, often exceeding 200 miles per hour. The event has taken place yearly since 1907 and has seen some 270 deaths. Now, excluding the extremely dangerous TT race, the island by some sources is claimed to be the safest place in the British Isles. Most of the crimes are committed are non-violent offences like money laundering. The crowdsourced database website Numbeo actually has the Isle of Man ranking as the 6th safest place in the world. On the same website, the Isle of Man has a quality of life score of 218, which actually ranks it 2nd in the world, only behind Luxembourg.
That's
However,
nuts.
there is very little or reliable data to support this, so use your own judgment with this one. So there we have it, the Isle of Man in a nutshell. Sounds like a pretty nice place to live, right? Like and subscribe for more geography content, and as always, thank you very much for watching.
Alright, check out the Geography Bible, you guys. I'll leave a link down below. Isle of Man looks really interesting. I wonder how hard it is to, like, become a citizen there. I'm not saying I want to, but with all of those, like, data points, with how safe it is, the GDP per, per person, it makes me feel like people would, like, want to try and move there, but apparently, I bet it's a lot harder than you would think it is. And with that, I'm going to cut out. Appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.